Thank you.
No, I really appreciate everyone who's here. And my first point of noticing is the fact that there's actually no one here, as far as I know, in education. There's no one here who's in schools, and yet that is not the story that I'm going to tell about schools anyway, but it is. And I'd like to tell a story about really entanglement and nonlinearity. And Andres spoke about the status quo, and I think of schools, and I think that there's probably no place in the world, no idea, no concept that's more conservative than schools. In 8 months, they'll do the same thing they did 4 months ago, which is the same thing that they've been doing for probably more than 200 years, which is going through high stake exams with a pen and paper. And it's a very conservative industry, and it's not one that lends itself to change. And schools are funny because everybody's been to school, but yet nobody can actually be in school anymore because you can't just go into a school building because it's there's child protection issues. So we send our children there, and they end up being there for about 8 hours a day, and we don't know. So it's part of our lives, but it's not part of our lives. And so where I'd like to start now with my story of bioleadership, I guess I've already started is we talk about place-based, but I'm going to shift a little bit and talk about space-based, and I'm actually going to use Ali, who's on this call, so space-based as a point of entry, because Ali is nature governance, and she it's not, she's highly educated and a lawyer and a wonderful human being, but she wouldn't be someone typically that you would expect my story of schools and bioleadership and growth to come from. But I met Ali, or at least I connected with Ali, who's been on the podcast because of someone that I met through the bioleadership, which is Andy Middleton, who talked about nature on the board, and talked about also this way of expanding ourselves beyond our industry, beyond where we do every day, and in terms of a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of becoming. And that is to really fundamentally ask the question of what would nature do? What would nature say? If nature could say, if we could anthropomorphize nature, and how do we think in different ways to have nature be part of those principles, or the principles of nature that we take. And so the bioleadership opens up those spaces of connecting with people who are doing vastly different things, but who are actually doing the same thing. And that I value tremendously because it unfolds different ways of thinking and being and becoming again that allow us to really take our practice further. So if you think about what that allows when you enter a space of the bioleadership, you connect with people immediately. There's a sense of vulnerability that's already there. You end up in a breakout room with people all over the world that you've never met before, and already you've got these points in common. Already you may be doing completely different things, like being part of a sports equipment company or working with golf courses or whatever it might be, but there's a point of commonality there that really opens up the spaces of thinking and feeling. And then the work comes in because you realize that those commonalities bring strength, but they also allow you to be, as an individual, allowing to go into different directions. So the bioleadership, I came in thinking, I don't really know. I just know that there's something not going right with education. I know that it doesn't feel right, but I don't know what it is. And I have to say that these principles of nature, this idea that we learn from the inside, not the outside, this idea that there is absolutely no point in learning anything or doing anything unless it does good for the world, unless it gives back to the world as the world, is really a space that opens up over months and months and years. And I tell you, today alone, just today, I'm on this call. So thankful to reconnect with Ali, with Javi, with Andres. But I just came back from a lunch from someone that I met through someone from the bioleadership. Later on, I have a call with someone that I met again through the bioleadership. It just continues to unravel these people who are doing the work and who add different layers, different points of view with vulnerability, friendship, kindness. And that's not something that I could ever forget or lose. And so the theory that Andres talked about is really important, and it underpins everything, but nothing will beat those relationships of being with people who are doing the work all across the world and who just give strength in different ways. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And there is no one in this space, and only a few perhaps in the space of education, but what I've done has really contributed to me, my writing, my thinking, my everything, and allowed me to tell a different story and actually have such conviction in the story that I tell about having that new narrative, that it's infected me in a good way, in an absolutely good way. So Rambling on, but I did warn you that it would be an entangled story, and I'm just eternally grateful. And it's been a few years now, and I will forever be part of this fellowship.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. Wow. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Maybe some of you, well, yeah, I probably don't know, but I also started as a fellow in the first cohort. And that's exactly what you find. No, it's that community of practice and people really pushing boundaries in the same way across sectors, and that's really, really good. So, well, thanks, Benjamin. Also, we will have questions and answers later if anyone wants to make any question to Benjamin, a specific one. Now, I think we're gonna start sharing again our slides.
Should we do a little? I'd love to just hear a couple of voices now, Javi. Actually, I'm mindful we've spoken for a while. It'd be really nice to hear if it's resonating, or are there already some questions? I know you have some detail about the program you'd like to offer, Javi, but
Yeah.
is it resonating, folks, or are there any thoughts or questions already?